Hello again, Plaid friends. Welcome back to the www.plaidavenger.com, where we just don't want to hear the news. We want to understand the news. And before I get to that news, of course, season's greetings to all my Plaid friends out there, and a special happy holidays, Hatoyama. That's right. The reason for the season's festivities in this Plaidcast is Japanese Prime Minister Yukio Hatoyama. And let's entitle this one, Hatoyama Hijinks Causing Chilly Relations for Uncle Sam. What? I thought the US and Japan were really tight, strong allies. And you would be right, they are. But things are getting problematic with the now 3-month-old administration of Yukio Hatoyama in charge. That's right. You probably remember from a former Plaidcast. Prime Minister Yukio Hatoyama is of the center-left political party in Japan called the DPJ, the Democratic Party of Japan. And it was a very big deal when he got into office because it was the first time that the center-left party had been in charge of Japan in its modern history. Meaning ever. And you would think that, hey, that's kind of like President Obama, center-left with the Democrats. So these two entities, the Democratic Party in the United States and President Obama, and the DPJ in Japan with Hatoyama, they should be fast friends and bosom buddies and be getting along with all of their tax and spend ways, yes? And that would be a completely logical assessment and a great hypothesis for you to make. And unfortunately, you'd be totally wrong, because this Hatoyama administration is actually causing a kind of a rift with its buddies over in the United States. The first time in decades. And this is a very big deal, not just for Uncle Sam, not just for Japan, but Asia and the world as a whole. What we're seeing here is a big shift that's going down that Hatoyama has started that I want you to understand and know, both economically, but also on a military/security/diplomacy avenue. This is why it's a very big deal. So let's get to it and do it, shall we? All right, go! Hatoyama, much like Obama, came to power in Japan months ago on a pledge to change what's going on in Japan. Japan's economy's been in a slump forever. And they said, hey, we're in this world recession, but our economy's been kind of floundering anyway. So vote for the other party, the center-left party, and we're going to change the way the business is working. We're going to change our economy. We're going to change everything. It's going to be great. And so far, again, much like Obama, and so far, what they've accomplished is nada. And in fact, they're starting to slip in the polls a little bit because they haven't really had a leadership role to move things forward. What they have come up with, and this is the Hatoyama and the DPJ I'm talking about, is a $100 billion government stimulus package to revive, revamp, and boost their own economy. Now, they're not unique in this respect. The U.S., of course, had a $5 billion one. Germany had a stimulus package. China had a stimulus package. And the problem that it's causing in Japan is, one, they're broke. They're a really rich country. And remember, Japan's the second biggest economy on planet Earth, right after the United States. But the debt ratio is extremely high, much like the United States. They owe a lot of money. And the bigger problem is that folks in Japan looked around and said, another $100 billion? That's your plan, Hatoyama? Dude, they've been doing that for the last 20 years in our country. The other political party who we voted out of office, that was their solution all the time. A government stimulus plan to cut corporate taxes, to build roads and perhaps schools, and tax credits for businessmen. Oh, tax credits for people that have kids, and tax credits for education. That's what the other administration's been doing for 20 years. And it didn't work then. This $100 billion that Hatoyama is proposing go forward in stimulus for his country may help get them out of the current world recession. It's a world recession. But what the Plaid Avenger wants you to know is that's the least of Japan's worries. That $100 billion may get them out of the current debacle the world is in. But Japan's economy has basically been stagnant for 2 decades. Decades, my friends. 20 years. When we look at economic growth, say in the United States, we say, oh, our economy, our GDP grows by 3 or 4 or 5% every year. It's 5% bigger next year than it was this year. That's economic growth. In China, it's 9, 10, 11, or 12% economic growth. Even in European countries, which are pretty kind of stagnant as a general rule, they're looking at 2 to 3 to 4% economic growth. In Japan, it's been less than 2%. For 20 years. 20 years. Some average growth over the decades has been like 1.7% GDP growth. And that's just really low. Yes, they're really rich, but they got a lot of debt and their economy's stagnant. It's not getting any bigger. Now, there are plenty of reasons for this. The Japanese people themselves are extremely frugal. They don't spend a lot. Real estate prices are exceptionally high. The population is dwindling. Healthcare costs are going up as there's more old people. There's a whole bunch of things that are going on, including outsourcing of jobs, because labor cost of living is very high in Japan. It means labor costs are very high. It costs a lot to run a business. And so businesses, like in the United States, have been going elsewhere. Honda and Toyota, Mitsubishi, and Nintendo, they now make their products in South Korea or Indonesia or China, where it's cheaper. And the same thing's been happening in the United States. But it's been happening for 20 years in Japan. 20 years. If you'd invested 10 grand in the Nikkei stock index, which is the main one in Japan, say 20 years ago, you dropped 10 grand into it. And you came over to America and dropped the same 10 grand into, say, the Dow, New York Stock Exchange. 20 years later, you'd have a good chunk of change off your American investment. You'd have your same 10 grand from Japan. And that is stagnant. So Japan's main problem that they put this new leadership in charge to fix is this stagnation. And Yukio and his crew have not come up with anything new on that front yet. But here's what the Plaid Avenger really wants you to pay attention to. Here's what they have been doing behind the scenes. It's not a plan, it's not written down. But if you pay attention to the news, you see it happening, and it's of much more significance than a damn stimulus package. What am I referring to? Japan, under the leadership of Prime Minister Yukio Hatoyama, is for the first time in its history turning to embrace Asia. Bam! You heard it here first. They are doing this in an extremely big way. What the hell's Plaid Avenger talking about? What you talking about, Hatoyama? This guy and the rest of his crew have decided, and they have not said this out loud, but they don't have to if you're smart. They have decided that the future for their economic growth is in Asia. It's not with America. It's not with Europe. It's not with Team West. It's not in Africa. It's in Asia. Now, Yukio had President Obama, and they had over to visit last month. You remember, right before Thanksgiving? They had a nice talk, a nice chat. Everything was nice, and then he's gone. That's it. What he's been doing since is of much more significance. Yukio has visited India, met with Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, and tried to talk Manmohan into investing in Japanese technologies in bullet trains and Japanese companies to come into India, which is probably going to happen. Japan has also now hosted the vice president of China. Not the president, not Hu Jintao, the vice president. That Chinese vice president's name is Xi Jinping. Know that name well, my friends. Xi Jinping. Because he is likely going to be the next president of China after Hu Jintao steps down. When Xi came to visit Japan just last week, he met not only with Yukio, but also with the Emperor of Japan, kind of a big deal. And both of these cats have decided to increase trade as much as possible. And please know this already, my friends. China is Japan's biggest trading partner already. Already. And they're saying they want to increase trade. Because here's the deal, this makes sense. In the US, they're rich there. Western Europe, they're rich there. It's a recession. People aren't buying as much there, and they're not going to buy as much there. But China growing. China got 1.3 billion people who might be buying a lot more Japanese stuff. In India, 1.2 billion Indian people who might be buying Japanese stuff. Japan is now looking to the future saying, oh, Asia. We have been hanging out with our Western buddies for a long time, but Asia is where the future growth of our economics is going to be. It has to be. And let me throw this one out too. Prime Minister Yukio Hatoyama has been pushing for 3 months, and louder as every day passes, for an entire free trade zone of Asia. Free trade zone of Asia to further increase economic ties and imports and exports for everybody. Listen to this. I said free trade zone of Asia. Did I say the United States? Did I say Europe? Did I mention anybody else? Nope. Asia.